what's up YouTube? Today's video we're going to be going over one of the new builds that I saw on PoE.Ninja, and this is a Barrage build, but in the video that you're seeing here is a tornado shot build because I couldn't really find any footage of someone playing Barrage because no one really plays Barrage instead of tornado shot. The only reason why you go Barrage is because Barrage actually has all the projectiles counted on PoE.Ninja, while for tornado shot the PoE.Ninja damage will never be that high, purely because it doesn't count the shotgunning from secondary projectiles. So most people, if they really want to fluff up their PoE.Ninja DPS, they will pretty much just put in Barrage in their links, and that's pretty much it. So that's why Barrage is being used, and you're looking at content from tornado shot. And this is a Deadeye, as you can see, and the damage is honestly pretty crazy from what I can see from the video. And it just absolutely demolishes everything. Let's go see here. So this is the Uber Eater boss, and it really does show you that if you have enough damage, you can do anything. And this is no Monster Life mod, but look at the damage. The ballista totems just pop off. Well, the build's almost dead, but the boss is dead, right? So it's all good. And this is Uber, what's it called? Uber Scenery Exarch. And he kills it before the ball phase. What a sick build, right? But basically, we're going to go over why this character does so much damage. This is a Deadeye. I couldn't really find a Berserker version of this, but the playstyle is pretty much identical in terms of how it looks. Now, you might be wondering why Barrage. And Barrage is a skill on PoE.Ninja, as you might know in the previous videos, that it counts all the projectiles. So if you actually import the profile over, you can see here Barrage is one projectile on all projectiles. So it imports it with all projectiles. Now, tornado shot, if you do import it, so this guy has a tornado shot ballista totem. So in this case, tornado shot has no secondary component shotgunning. So in order to actually get tornado shot to have the right damage, you have to include in full DPS and then count 12, which is how many arrows you have. And PoE.Ninja will not do that. So that's why no one will ever fluff up their damage with tornado shot. And it will almost always be with Barrage because there's no shotgunning, there's no counting, and it's pretty much just going to be one projectile, and that's it. So bow builds also never take into account focus ballista totem. So you might see in that video, it's like, oh, how is the person doing that much damage? And tornado shot focus ballista does not get counted for, or any focus ballista totem does not get counted for in the total full DPS by PoE.Ninja. And what Focus Ballista does is ballista totems for supported skills only attack when you fire an attack projectile. So every time you attack, all of your totems will attack too. And the totems do have a damage penalty, but they make up a large chunk of your damage on single target boss fights. Especially when you put down a lot of totems, you will be literally pumping out DPS. And I do think that some people have told me from playing the build that the ballista totem actually ends up being more than half your damage on single target boss fights. So that's why bow builds do a lot more damage than you may think when you search it up on PoE.Ninja. Now, next up, you might be wondering why Berserker, because most people always play Deadeye. Now, Berserker is one of the best PoE.Ninja warriors out there, and it kind of pains me to say that because I always play Berserker, but you got to say the truth sometimes, right? You can't just always lie to yourself. But Berserker has 40% more damage from Aspect of the Carnage. This is really, really hard to beat. It has Blitz charges, which ends up being 40% more attack speed. And this is especially big on builds like bow builds that don't really have that much attack speed, or in stackers that struggle to get attack speed. And Flawless Savagery is huge too because it gives you more flat fizz to scale your build off of. And this build is a cold conversion tornado shot or Barrage build. And it also gives Crave to Slaughter, which automatically gives you Rage on your PoE.Ninja profile. And it doesn't even check are you leeching. So as you can see here, it does have you crit recently, but are you leeching is usually not checked on the profile. And this guy doesn't even put frenzy charges in his profile. So you can clearly see here just from looking at the config for the profile when you imported it over that this person is not going to be cheating that much. Now you might be wondering, is Berserker actually playable for a bow build? And the answer is Berserker kind of sucks for the bow build, especially if you're going to be playing tornado shot for your clear skill. And the reason behind that is if you go look at Deadeye, Deadeye is just absolutely cracked for bow builds. So this is kind of like a cautionary video too at the same time, telling you that PoE.Ninja damage is not everything, and that some builds will just feel a lot better. So you have Ricochet that gives you +1 chain, and this is huge. And it also chains off terrain, making it feel a lot better to play. And then you have 2 additional projectiles, which gives you more potential for shotgunning. And it also gives you access to the Tailwind effect, especially if you don't want to run Tailwind Elusive Onslaught boots. And then lastly, you can also get Focal Point, which is 75% increased effect of your marks, which ends up being a huge amount of damage if you're actually using Sniper's Mark. And this is also huge too, because Sniper's Mark generates more projectiles when it hits the enemy when it splits off. But that's another portion of damage that never gets counted on PoE.Ninja. The Deadeye is usually the better ascendancy outside of PoE.Ninja. And like I say, it is very difficult for Berserker to get chain without using the Quiver Corrupt. And if you do use the Quiver Corrupt, as you can see here, the Quiver implicits can get some insane stuff. Like this thing literally has 1 additional arrow on it. And the Berserker tree does end up being very similar to the Lightning Strike Berserker tree. Now the main problem with the Berserker tree is that you can see there's a lot of points that you're traveling to get there, and point efficiency is a huge thing for Deadeye and Ranger builds. And that's why they can get so much damage, because they can just pump all of these travel nodes into a cluster jewels or something else. So you can see here that this build is a lot of damage on paper with Berserker, but Deadeye offers a lot of stuff that is not really something you can make up for, like chain and additional projectiles. Now, we might be wondering, why is the damage so high? Well, the base damage all comes from the mere bow, so this is a cold conversion build. So in order for cold conversion to happen, you need a lot of flat fizz damage. And flat fizz comes from this spine bow, which is just out of this world. It's a mere spine bow with synthesized implicit with additional arrows. So it has 358 to 834 flat damage. And then you also have more flat damage from Rislata's Coil, 1 to 22 flat fizz. And you also have 48% more maximum and 39% less minimum. So this belt is completely cracked for the build. It's actually a 34% damage increase, making it better than probably even a synthesized belt. And then you have Herald of Purity, which also scales it. And he also has 12 to 15 flat fizz on the Circle of Guilt. And Herald of Purity buff effect and physical damage increase. So basically, he just has a bunch of flat fizz from the bow. And then he has a little bit of from the Berserker Ascendancy, 20 to 30 flat fizz there. And next up, you have the cold damage, which gets converted over. You might be wondering, how is this person converting the cold damage? Well, he's just using the cold mastery for 40%. And then on the gloves, he has 35% and then 25% on the implicit, which adds up to 100%. Now, he ends up with 12 total projectiles. Now, projectiles are how you scale the damage for Barrage a lot. So you can see here, when we look at the calcs, you have 12 total projectiles, 4 from the Barrage, 1 base, and then 3 from the bow, 3 from the quiver, and 2 from Dying Sun, which is kind of weird, because you would usually have more from Dying Sun if you use it in Kindling Orb. But the guy's not fully cheating. Now, the build does have a 100% crit chance roughly, so we go look at Barrage. It's at 100% crit chance, and 562% multi is actually pretty high. And the reason behind that is Barrage has no elemental tags, so all of the crit multi has to be generic crit multi. So he has 25% multi here, and he has a bunch of multi on his tree. He has some multi on his jewels. So if you can see here, all of the crit multi that he gets has to be global critical strike multiplier. It's incredibly hard to actually get this much crit multi on a bow build. So you can see here, he gets Heart Seeker, has some more crit multi. And that's pretty much all of the sources of crit multi. And of course, there's some on a tree over here and right here, lethality. But next up, he also has pretty high attack speed for a bow build. 10.55 is extremely high. Now, the reason behind that is that he has Berserk. And Berserk is something that's not going to be up all the time. But you can see here, it's a 47% damage increase. And he has Rage. So if you take out the Rage and you take off the Berserk, he's only at 8.23. So Berserk and Rage makes a pretty big difference in scaling all of his flat damage. Now, you might be wondering, where's the elemental penetration coming from? And it is an Omni build, meaning that he's using Black Sun Crest which gives him a bunch of Omni. You can see he has 13%, 14%, 15%, and he actually ends up with 1,999 Omni. And he has a triple T1 suffix on that item. He has a corrupted. Well, this one's corrupted with percent strength, percent int, and this one is not a percent strength, percent int Omni. But overall, he has a bunch of Omni at 1,999, which should take care of any elemental penetration he needs. Now, for cold conversion builds, you do want to scale aura effect a lot because hatred aura effect actually ends up being one of the best stats. And you can see here on his chest, he has 30% hatred aura effect and 20%, so 50% total. He also has more hatred aura effect on the Omni, which is pretty crazy. Corruption, honestly, for 18% right there. And I think Rislata's, that's all he has for hatred and Herald of Purity aura effect. Now, Rislata's coil is pretty good because it gives 34% more damage, and that's because of the higher base Fizz damage. And for his clusters, they do help him out a lot in terms of attack speed and just damage in general. So this pressure point gives him double damage. And this thing actually, I'm not really sure why he has this because you can't really block. But this actually does help you cap out your crit because it has 60% critical strike chance. Not really too sure about taking this. Maybe I'm missing something. But yeah, so maybe this is just for some crit chance to cap out his crit because it is pretty hard to cap out your crit on Berserker without using Secrets of Suffering, purely because Blitz Charges actually gives you reduced crit. And he is using one of these large clusters that gives 35% effect, life, attack speed. So each one of these jewels give a bunch of stats, and they are pretty point efficient in terms of your damage. Now, undeniable jewel, he is using Forbidden Flesh and Flame, and I do think that this is not very good. I think he might be using this to get accuracy capped or just more attack speed. But you can see here, each one of these jewels is giving around 4% total in damage. So I don't really agree with the Forbidden Flame and Flesh choice, but he's pretty much just playing this build for quality of life, and he's not really being a full tooltip warrior. Now, Point Blank is something that most bow builds will use, and it's over here, and it's just a flat 30% more damage as long as you're within 10 or so meters of the mob. And this is something that comes always checked on, on PoE.Ninja or PoB when you import over the profile. Now, you might be wondering how much cheating is on this profile, like always, and there's really not that much cheating. This profile, if anything, is not really optimized for cheating. And he doesn't even have Are You Leeching checked right here, which makes up a lot of damage. And this is from Feed to Fury, Field of Fire, Martial Prowess. He could have put in a Frenzy gem to get Frenzy charges, which would increase his damage even more. And he just has a lot of stuff that is not really taken into account. Intimidate, he has Intimidate on his gloves, but it doesn't come checked on the PoB. If you look at his flask, he doesn't have Enkindling Orbs on his Dying Sun. And this man is using an Enduring Eternal Mana Flask, which I completely disagree with, but hey, you can do whatever you want. Mana reservation, you look at it here, it's 70, so he has more than enough mana to cast a skill. And the only skill he has that looks out of place for this is Frostbomb, so it's only casting Frostbomb on the boss, which is actually pretty reasonable to do. And Summon Skitterbots actually has Bone Chill and Awaken Unbound Ailments. And this actually ends up being a lot of damage. Bone Chill is 9.2% and Unwaken Unbound is 8.6%. So if you disable Skitterbots, it's actually a 32% damage increase, which is pretty crazy. And the main thing about this character is, yeah, it's not cheating, but it's not very tanky either. So even though this guy might be trying to make a real build, 20k EHP is not really playable, but maybe just doing some bossing where he instantly one-shots the boss. But there is a lot more damage potential on this build. The Forbidden Flame and Flesh Jewel are definitely not good in terms of point efficiency. You would probably rather just have 2 of these Viridian Jewels. So if you see you swap over to maybe this Jewel. Well, this Jewel is only a 2% damage increase, which is pretty crazy. Wait, no, it's not. It's this one, Viper Bliss. So you can see here, you switch out this one, and you switch out the other Forbidden Jewel, and it's already more damage. So there's a lot of optimizations this guy could do, but he's pretty much just playing this build how he likes to, and he's not really cheating at all. And there's not that much cheating. Anyone cheating would definitely slot in a Frenzy gem and then get the Frenzy charges for the build. Now, this is a great illustration of how high PoB damage doesn't really matter that much, and In a lot of cases, the ascendancy is just completely wrong because Deadeye is really unbeatable because of the extra chain and ricochet off the walls. And Lethal Pride is something that never gets accounted in PoB. A lot of people don't know about this, but the PoB damage is usually a lot lower than you think. Lethal Pride could get Intimidate or it can get double damage on these nodes, and it adds up pretty fast. It's very possible to get like 15 to 20% double damage, and none of these nodes get added because PoE.Ninja or PoB really has no way of knowing exactly what nodes each one of these timeless jewels actually have. And Berserker versus Deadeye, I do think is an argument that a lot of people ask about, especially if they really like the Berserker attack speed. But these travel points right here, even though Berserker has more damage on Ascendancy, these travel points, if you put it into a cluster jewel or more point efficient damage nodes, then Deadeye is going to come out to be very, very close to Berserker while having the quality of life with the +2 projectiles and chain. And it does seem like Ascendant is another option that's pretty good. And I was able to see this because I sorted it by tornado shot damage. The way you sort it by tornado shot damage, you can see that the Berserker is kind of down over here and that these Ascendants and Deadeyes actually do more damage overall, probably if they swapped in Barrage in their link. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope this helped out people who are trying to understand why bow builds actually do this much damage, and if Berserker, Deadeye, and the Berserker and Deadeye comparison for the Ascendancy. I do know that this build's damage is actually not that high, and if you use one of these builds and swap in Barrage, the damage would be a lot higher. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more Meters, Exalts, and Mage Bloods than me, and see you next time. Bye!